Hi, this is my video for today, I guess. I'm starting it off. I'm actually at a seminar all day. It's actually a 2-day seminar on neuroplasticity and development. Sorry, it's so hard because I'm using my phone and I keep looking at myself and I should be looking over there. But anyways, so it's lunchtime. We get an hour break before I have to go back in, but my brain is just it's been a lot of information. Just, it's for my job. I have to do continuing education hours and take courses and seminars here and there to just maintain my license. And so a lot of the first half has been like just getting refamiliarized with neurology and all the different parts of the brain, and then just going through all of the different ways that we can implement the use of neuroplasticity in development. I work with pediatrics, so with kids, and so mainly focusing in that area, but also touching on areas of how this can apply to, typically developing brains and every stage of life. So it's been really interesting. I love brain stuff. Like, I think of all of the areas of my job, and I graduated in psychology when I was younger too, so I've always been super passionate and, well, I wouldn't say passionate, but just like super interested in the brain and how it works, and that involves everything from how it develops, what impacts it, how it can mold and change, how it can I think this girl's coming right next to me. Hold on. Okay, I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, I thought she was going to sit in her car and eat for a little while. I was actually looking for, I have a little table that I usually have in my car because I'm about to eat my lunch and I only have a little bit of time, so I should probably start doing that. But I did want to start this video and just explain a little bit about what I'm doing today, because I'll probably end up talking about some of this stuff for today's video because it's all I'm going to be thinking about today. So, but yeah, it's been very, very interesting. It's something I'm very interested in. Oh, that's what I was saying. It was just, like how learning about the brain and its abilities can be really useful, not just in a medical field, but also just day to day. I'm actually reading a book right now called Mind Magic, which fits in perfectly with this area of study, and it just talks about mindfulness and specifically manifesting and using the scientific reasons of why your brain changes in order to manifest. So it's kind of like a scientific approach to manifestation. I highly recommend it. So far it's been really interesting and great. So I'll put a link to the book down below if you're interested, and maybe some videos that we're watching in class and some interesting tidbits and stuff like that. I don't know. Don't hold me to it. I mean, today's a really super long day. It's 8 hours straight of just neurology, so I might be kind of fried when I get home, but hopefully I'll be able to edit this and get it up anyway. If you have any more questions about it, I guess put them down below. Maybe I'll do another video more in depth, but basically that's what today is. I'm just, working on learning. Well, it's more of a refresh because I've learned all of this at some point in my career. I've taken so many classes, and so it's more of a refresher course, but I am learning some things that I haven't learned, because obviously the brain actually isn't super well known, every single aspect of the brain. So every 5-10 years they've learned a lot more about it. So one thing that was really interesting is how trauma affects brain. That's something I've been really interested in, and just how it can change the brain, and also how like certain interventions can really improve brain development even after trauma. So trauma can change it, but then there's lots of things you can do to mold and fix and change things back to a pretty, in a substantial way where you can be very functional. And yeah, so it's been interesting so far, but I'm hungry and I gotta eat, so I'm gonna do that now. I brought myself a sub from Subway, from Publix, a pub sub. It's so good. If you're in the East and you know what a pub sub is, I'm sure you, it just smells so good. I'm sure you know what I'm saying, but if you're not and you need to come here and get one, I support you. Do that. I'll show you what I got. I usually get turkey or chicken. Sometimes I'll get it on a wrap, but sometimes I'll get it on a sub. And I always get the oil and vinegar on the side and not on the sub, so that it doesn't get soggy and stuff, especially if I'm not going to eat it right away. And I just get all the veggies. So, quick little peek, and then I'm gonna eat. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna go eat. The main thing is to remember that your brain is always capable of change. So even if you think you are a certain way or you are never going to change, it's always possible. Even into late adulthood and beyond. So, you know, one of the biggest indicators of people that are older who live longer and have great brain function is that they continually use it. So just keep trying to learn, feed your brain with good things. It's really important to have good, healthy lifestyle to help support all of the brain functions. But just know that you could always work on your brain and help it to become stronger, help your mindset to form new synapses, to develop new skills. So even if you live a mediocre lifestyle, like some of us, me, then you can still learn new things and develop new skills. However, if you don't continually use it, you will most likely lose it. So that's where the expert level comes in, is you have to have continual repetition for an extended period of time in order to become extremely good at it. But even experts, if at some point they stop, you know, over an extended period of time, they will regress and have to regain those skills. So, and it depends on how much time goes between a learned skill and then not using that skill, of whether or not you'll be able to pick it up easier or if you have to start back over from the beginning. And it depends on the skill. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to encourage you guys to continue to use your brains, continue to try and be curious about how you can change your brain. If you are thinking that your brain is just one way, that's not true. You can change it. So, I mean, they're definitely more, your brain is more placid and capable of being molded easier at different stages of life. But it's never done growing, it's never done changing. So keep at it, protect your brain, it's really important. There was one other thing that was kind of something new that's changed, is people always believed that your brain kind of stops forming and developing by 25 or around 25 to 27. And while a lot of it is complete at that time, it's still developing, especially the frontal lobe is still developing well into your late 30s, mid 40s, and continually grow. So it's still changing, it's still developing, and it doesn't mean that after that you can't change anything and you can't learn new skills, because obviously you can. They've proven that. So anyways, I just wanted to share that before I go back in because lunch is over. yeah, the course was really fun. I actually really enjoyed it. It was technical, but it was also really informative, and there was a lot of practical applications that we learned. So yeah, it was fun. I wish that I could give you like an in-depth course replay, but I don't really know what would be interesting to the general public about neuroplasticity, other than just the fact that, you know, you can always adapt your brain. So I recommend that book that I suggested. And what else? What can I say? What can I give you that's helpful? Let me think. I think I'll go inside, pull out my notes, look over them real fast. Maybe something will pop out that I feel like would be beneficial. Because yeah, it would be kind of nice to share this information in a digestible way. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'll give it a shot, even though I'm extremely tired. I only got like 3 hours of sleep last night and then sat through 8 hours with an hour break of lunch of neurological information. But I'll do my best because I am sticking to this 75 hard on YouTube, and today is the day where I will get something up that will have value. Hi, I'm back. It's kind of dark now, so hopefully you can see me okay. Okay, so I just wanted to touch base and have a little bit more information about what I learned today. Oh my gosh, my fingers are freezing. It's 60 degrees in my room right now. Anyway, it's fine. We can get through this once I get talking. Okay, so I was thinking that I should first explain what neuroplasticity even is, if for anyone who doesn't know. But it's basically the ability for your brain to change over time, and that can be both in negative ways and positive ways. So that can mean that it strengthens or weakens existing neural connections, or it's creating new pathways. It's kind of like a muscle that if the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So repetition is important for building connections and making them stick. It grows, it changes over time the more you use a certain area of your brain and the more you work on learning and growth. So it's like a muscle where if you challenge your brain and you work on it, it grows and it changes. And again, that can be in both positive and negative ways. Obviously, positive ways are things like confidence, building a skill, a talent for something. So you're probably wondering, what are some negative ways? So negative ways that you can change your brain is when you develop neuroses or chronic stress, depression, anxiety. Your brain is learning those negative aspects as well, and it's developing coping mechanisms and ways to handle those things, which often can lead into a fight-flight mentality or fight-flight response that it has learned because of continual use within that realm. So the good news is, though, that your brain can change over a lifetime. So you can work on those things and alter them pretty much at any time. Obviously, like any habit that's been learned, it's going to take time to change the way the brain forms those connections into more positive ones. So the key is just to not give up too soon once you start trying to restructure your brain, essentially. So for me, what the cool, this is kind of like creepy a little bit, but so the brain is kind of like its own entity. When you think about that, it's kind of creepy. It's like having a little alien up there. But what's fascinating about it is that it is constantly working and shifting and adapting to new environments and new situations. And what we were learning a lot about was, in some sections, was the fact that if you have a brain injury or there's something that changes in your actual brain structure. So let's say that, I'm not going to go over a lot of the anatomy of the brain, but I think everybody knows that there's different lobes in the brain that have different functions. Each of the lobes control different aspects of your functions and like your abilities. So for example, you have a lobe for vision, which would be like your occipital lobe. I'll put up a little, what do you call it? I don't know, picture of the anatomy and the lobes and what their uses are for the most part. But you have one for language and you have one for vision and things like that. So in the past, a lot of the science followed that if you had damage to one area of your brain that controlled a certain aspect of your function, that more than likely you wouldn't be getting that function back, because once it's gone, there wasn't really any way to recover it. But now the science shows that isn't necessarily true, and that what's really cool about it is that the brain is always trying to maintain homeostasis, and it's always trying to be as efficient as possible, and it wants to be able to function at its best rate. And so when there is a error going on in the brain, the rest of the lobes work together to try to compensate for that and try to do what they can to maintain that function, because it really wants that function to be available. So a lot of times what will happen is the other brains will draw from each other and essentially create the neural networks necessary for that function. So especially they've noticed this in language, is like if the lobe is damaged in some way, that the other lobes will come together and try to figure out a way to create pathways that also allow for also allow language to emerge in some way. It might not be perfect because, you know, the main lobe that is specifically designed for language is damaged, but you'll still get a pretty good ability to have that function back. And there's a lot of things that go into it. So obviously, for those that have, you know, serious disabilities and things, in terms of language, it doesn't mean that they'll suddenly recover and be perfect. There are definitely other factors involved. Another thing is, when that happens, it takes a long time for it to develop these new networks. So a lot of times it'll take, you know, years and years before anything really comes to fruition. So that's a big part of it too. And I don't know, but it is promising, and it's something that's interesting. And what's even cooler is that we have a lot more control over the development of those networks and those connections. So that's what's really cool about like things involving like depression and anxiety and self-confidence and trauma to the brain, as far as like childhood trauma. And because when those traumas happen, we talked a lot about childhood trauma, which is another fascination of mine, of how the brain develops under trauma as a child. And it's obviously it's so complicated, because there are definitely times in your life when your brain is more fluid and able to be manipulated, and if things occur within those periods, it can either be extremely helpful or extremely damaging. And so the recovery from that, or the ability to change it, later on is very, very, very challenging, but it is very, very, very possible. So it just will take work, you know, but the fact that it can change is fascinating. So a lot of times people think that, oh, my brain is just the way that it is and it won't change. And in some cases, obviously that can be true. There are different brains for different personalities and different diagnoses and things like that. Obviously, like people on the spectrum or with ADHD, they've proven that their brains are actually, you know, genetically different. So, but they've also shown that those brains can be wired, and it's case by case. I mean, I don't want to speak in terms of like, oh, if you have this, then you can change your brain. You know, that's not necessarily the case. But what I'm saying is there are possibilities of being able to have more control over that development. And obviously, the younger that you do this, the earlier you do this, earlier intervention is the key to a lot of this success. It's pretty fascinating stuff. But I did also want to just make sure that I said that yes, the early intervention is helpful and it's beneficial, and that's mainly because your brain is very palatable and able to change quickly because you're learning, you're like open to learning so much when you're a child, and as you get older it's harder and harder to be open to that. And also your brain is developed a lot more, and so it takes a lot longer because you've built up all these habits and things. So you have to rewire things versus like when you're younger, you're kind of just starting to wire things. And I can tell you, I mean, if you're interested, I'll show you the most beneficial times to engage in neuroplasticity exercises and things like that when the brain is the most open to it. But anyways, so I'm sorry, even though it's getting darker and darker, I can tell there's different stations. Anyway, there's a lot of information. I'm not going to go into every single detail. The main thing I wanted to get across was that even though there's those times in life where you're more open to things, if you consciously continually challenge your brain can adapt at any age, and it can be open to new neural networks, learning new things. So even if you're in your 70s, even if you're in your 80s, you're still capable of learning something new, starting something new, developing new pathways. You don't have to think, everything is so rigid, and the old dog can't learn new tricks thing is just not true. So no matter what you're feeling, no matter what you're going through, if you don't like how it is, there is hope to change. And like I said, it takes time, but the more you challenge it, the better and the faster those networks will connect and form new ways of thinking. The more you learn and the more you challenge it, the more flexible your brain will be, and the more capable of change, and the more resilient it will be. So it's really important, the older you get, to challenge yourself. So I just wanted to put that out there for those of us that think that we're past an age of change. That's not true. So keep working on your brain, folks. So I guess I'm just saying, if you're stuck, if your brain isn't working the way you want it to in any way, there's always hope. There's always a chance for it to change. There's always a chance for it to rewire. You're never stuck with the way that your brain works. With effort and intention, you can reshape the way that your brain works, the way that it thinks, and the way that it behaves. So don't give up. Just keep trying. That's the positive thing that I learned from this whole class. It was like, the brain is fascinating, and it's always working in your best interest. Even when it's going into anxiety and it's developed all of these negative habits, it's because it thinks it's in a very unhealthy and unsafe environment. It's trying to help you survive. It's trying to get you out of that situation. It's telling you this is not safe, this is not okay, and it wants to escape it and to find a better place and to have better thoughts, and you know, it wants your parasympathetic system to come back and be safe. But it doesn't understand that it's not in an unsafe environment. It just thinks it is. So it's trying to save you, it's trying to protect you, but it doesn't understand because it's been wired to think this is unsafe, you know. So it just hasn't learned yet, and you can teach it. You can teach it, yes, I am safe. Yes, I am in a good place. Yes, I can have positive thoughts. I can have positive experiences. And this is a positive experience. So just keep working at it. I think there was something that one of the girls, not the girls, but like one of the references, she said it very well. It was like something about let me see if I can find it in my notes. Oh yeah, okay, so it was saying, sorry, I was saying that it was actually from Cosmic Kids. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but she's a YouTuber that does like yoga and mindfulness and all of that, and that's where the actual saying came from. But it was talking about how the brain, especially the amygdala, is considered like the guard dog part of your brain, and whenever it senses something that's unsafe, it just like goes off and it barks and it gets angry, and it's trying to protect you. It's trying to get you to get out of there and stay safe. And sometimes it overrides your owl, which is the wise part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, that helps you calm down and realize, oh, this isn't a threat. This is okay. And so basically there's a way to rewire the brain so that the owl has a little bit more control. It's a fascinating thing. I just love the brain so much, and I just wanted to share what I was up to today and also give a little bit of information and background. There's so much that goes into neuroplasticity and different interventions. We were specifically speaking about and focusing on how to use it in therapy with pediatrics and for neural development, and also to help with certain diagnoses of especially neurological diagnoses. So, you know, I don't know that that's super fascinating to everybody else, but just in a general aspect, just it's fascinating what the brain can do. And I hope that you take this and actually, you know, learn something today, challenge your brain today, and work on those neural networks. Okay, well, it's literally dark outside now, so I've been talking way too long, and I need to edit this and get it up and eat something and maybe take a nap. Okay, bye. I was just watching some of that back, and I am so bored, and I'm so sorry.